Well, I got an interesting story for you guys. Yesterday was an interesting day in a company called PureCycle Technologies. And I'm talking about PureCycles because they kind of try to do this similar thing that Aduro Clean Technologies, recycle plastic. So yesterday, I'm watching PureCycle, and the stock is getting absolutely decimated. It went below $4. If you can see here, went below. I saw it went below $3. No, $4, and then it shot up like 30% within one day. And it traded a volume of 12.6 million shares. Now, why am I talking about this? Just hang in here with me. So 12.6 million shares, let me just say it times 5. That's $63 million in one day. You know how much Aduro trades per day? On average, $100,000. So PureCycle traded in one day 630 times what Aduro trades in one day. That's like if we were trading Saturday and Sunday, no holidays, that's like Aduro trades this much in 2 years what PureCycle traded in one day. This just shows you how much appetite there is from investors in plastic for a plastic solution. Now, can you imagine what's going to happen to Aduro stock when more people get aware of it and eventually it starts trading on NASDAQ, which is where PureCycle trades? There is not enough shares to accommodate that. And now, PureCycle has issues, major issues. And the reason why the stock went from more than $10 to what is now $5 is because of the issues that I'm going to talk about. But when PureCycle went public, it went public at a valuation of $2.8 billion. Billion. No revenues, promise of delivering something. And there's nothing wrong with this. $2.8 billion, which means that upon successful implementation of the business model, investors were thinking that there's upside to $2.8 billion. Today, after all these problems that I'm going to discuss, PureCycle still has a market cap of close to $1 billion and $500 million of debt, by the way. Not much revenues, but they did say that it started a commercial production of its unit, and it's just made its first commercial shipment, whatever. But they're dealing with one plastic type, and they still, with all these issues, have almost a $1 billion market cap, where Aduro, maybe 50 million US market cap, and Aduro deals with more plastics. And Aduro owns its IP, it owns its technology. PureCycle licensed its technology from Procter & Gamble. So in other words, what Aduro has is a technology that can be taken and licensed to companies like PureCycle, Shell, big players. They own the technology, where PureCycle is a company that licensed the technology that they have from somebody else, and then they use that license to build a plant, spend $500 million, capital intensive to build a plant, and then they would have to build another plant, very capital intensive business, right? Where Aduro has a technology and the business model is completely different. Yes, they can build their own plants, but the idea is to be capital light, use this technology and license it to others that spend millions of dollars of capital intensive work, right? So which business model would you prefer? Well, I would prefer the licensing model because it's not capital intensive. Somebody else spends the money and sends you a check, right? So that's just the difference. But now, the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't think we as investors of Aduro just truly appreciate what we have here, because other companies that are not as good as us, have more exposure, don't even own their technology, have major problems, are trading 600 times more per day. And as a result of this, because that's why the opportunity exists, because not enough people know about it and we don't have enough trading volume. As a result of this, those companies have much bigger market caps, even though they have major problems. And what kind of major problems am I talking about? Well, there is this short report that came out, yesterday. And I'm reading through it and I am just blown away that this is even allowed to take place. So it's by Bleecker Street Research. PureCycle's failure to launch. So they're talking about how PureCycle has emerged in the public markets at a $2.8 billion valuation in 2021. So 2021, right, when people were paying millions of dollars for pictures of monkeys, it was a good time to go and go public, right? PureCycle is to commercialize a polypropylene recycling process. Polypropylene, one plastic type, the best plastic type. That's it, one. A recycling process developed by Procter & Gamble and licensed to PureCycle for $2.5 million. So PureCycle doesn't own its technology. So now let's think about this logically for a second. Procter & Gamble licensed this technology to PureCycle for $2.5 million. $2.5 million. Does this sound like some groundbreaking technology if they get to have it for $2.5 million? So Procter & Gamble values this technology at $2.5 million. I'm gonna just let you think about this, and then they spend $500 million building this plant, right? That just cost them $2.5 million to get the license, right? Okay, let's read on. However, the plant has been plagued with issues. Now, later in the report, PureCycle is being sued for $17 million by the contractor that built this plant. So PureCycle doesn't want to pay $17 million to the contractor because the contractor didn't perform the work in satisfactory terms. Do you know that the contractor that built this plant here, this chemical plant, doesn't even have experience in building chemical plants? This contractor has experience in building retail, shopping malls, industrial properties, and this was the first type of work to build a chemical plant. I am just absolutely blown away by this. I mean, you go out at a valuation of almost $3 billion. You pay $2.5 million for a license that if you only pay this much money, I don't know how good this technology is. And then you spend $500 million to build a plant, and you hire a contractor that doesn't have experience building chemical plants. I am just blown away by this. I am truly blown away by this. Look, if you're a PureCycle shareholder, I am cheering for you because this cause is big. This cause of plastic recycling is good for the environment. But you gotta ask yourself, what kind of moron makes the decision to raise $500 million, put on $500 million of debt, because that's what they have now, of debt. The company has no revenues as of yet, according to the most recent press. This debt has to be serviced, has to be paid back, right? And it has certain, requirements that you have to meet certain productions. And you hire a contractor that doesn't have any experience building chemical plants. I mean, I'm speechless. I am speechless. I didn't know that that's what they did. I had no idea because I don't follow this company that much. The only reason why I follow this company is to determine how much appetite there is from the investor community for a plastic recycling solution. But to see this, I am just blown away. I am just blown away. I am out of words for a company to do this. And then, of course, the key points from this report is that interviews with former employees described the building of the plant as a total shit show, run by a construction company with little experience completing a major chemical plant. Okay. This former employee described pipes to nowhere and valves installed backwards. This was despite $500 million in capex and roughly double what PureCycle predicted when it went public. Overruns are normal. In September, PureCycle blamed a power outage from a month earlier for its inability to meet bond milestones. So there was a power outage in August, and they didn't tell the shareholders that there was a power outage. Okay, they only told shareholders later. But as a result of this, now the company has, like lawyers all over the place because they had a shutdown. They didn't tell investors, and the insiders of the company sold all these shares during this time. May 12th, a former director sold 5.1 million shares. June 8th, somebody sold 7.4 million shares. June 11th, CEO sold some shares. In a total, the insiders dumped $13 million worth of shares, right? I mean, clearly, the May, June, July are before the power outage. But now, were these insiders selling shares because they knew there were problems with the plant? Well, we don't know that, but they clearly sold a lot of shares, and somebody's exposing this. As it says, while PureCycle was dealing with startup issues, insiders sold over 13 million of shares. 250 million in convertible notes were priced and placed, and then so that's, I think, on top of the 250 that they already have. PureCycle proprietary process is neither unique or high-tech. Well, I mean, if you pay 2.5 million for it, I'm not sure how good it is. The contractor who constructed the facility currently has 17 million mechanic lien against PureCycle. So after this report came out, the company's stock started going down. It went down like almost 20% within a day. And then the company came out with a press release at 2 p.m. that PureCycle makes its first commercial shipment for Mera. So it talks about how it made its shipment of plastic resin to a client, right? And now that's great. That's fantastic. Now nobody knows how economic a shipment like this is, right? And I truly am, rooting for PureCycle to succeed, because again, the cause is great. But now, if what the short report states is true, that they hired a company that doesn't even have experience in building these plants, it really makes you question, like, is this thing ever going to work? Because if this thing doesn't work, I think what's going to happen to the stock price of this company if this thing doesn't work and they have 500 million worth of debt. Anyway, I just wanted to show you the hunger that investors have for plastic recycling solution, that they are willing to pay even $3 billion for it, and even close to $1 billion for a plastic solution that clearly has problems with the plant, while Aduro is barely trade anything. These guys trade, 600 times the Aduro volume on a busy day like this, and the average is more like 2.5 million shares. So on average, they trade like 125. But again, even if you are a shareholder or not a shareholder of Aduro, you have no idea how lucky you are to be sitting on this opportunity, because at some point, they just signed up 2 multi-billion-dollar companies a couple weeks ago. There will be more. More people will find out about it. The share structure is very tight. I am lucky to have been exposed to a company like Aduro.